It's weird because when I look back at some of the stuff that we did, it doesn't seem like we did it. It seems like I'm watching somebody else's life. For most of my life, the only thing I wanted to do was be involved in professional wrestling. When I sit back now and I think about the last 15 years, especially when I think about where we started, where we went, and where we ended up, it's really overwhelming to kind of think about everything we were able to accomplish. For us, it all started in Jackson, New Jersey, on a cul-de-sac in the neighborhood we grew up in. There was 4 of us in the beginning. Slug, Tommy Thunder, Little Luchador, and myself, who wrestled as Denver Street. When we first started what was then known as the HWF, we had 3 goals: to get on TV, to wrestle in front of a live crowd, and to get a real ring. In the beginning, our central location became known as the Horseshoe.
The Horseshoe, the famous Horseshoe. We started wrestling there, but it got a little weird because people would come home and see us and they would start like shouting things at us like, "Hey, don't go near that car or I'll beat your ass," or something.
It was a street. It was like, the street was a horseshoe, and in the center was a giant grassy area that was, it was pretty long, and it was just us just messing around.
So we eventually moved from place to place. Ryan didn't want to do it at his house. Ricky's dad was crazy. So then we eventually started doing it at my house, in my backyard. It was a pretty big backyard.
And it was pretty much, we just went there. And I can't even try to remember what the first show was. All I remember is I won the world title.
The only problem with mine was we had dogs. They would poop in the backyard, so we had to find someone to clean it up.
They forced me to clean up the dog poo.
To this day, I have never cleaned up poop in my own backyard. It has always been Slug. And that was one of the main reasons I felt we kept him around.
And then we wrestled until pretty much it got dark out. And ran old VHS video camera from the VCR, cables through the house, out the sliding glass door. It was just the most ridiculous thing ever.
I remember a few times where it was just me and Ryan, and we were both young, we both had the itch to wrestle, so we would show up, we would set the camera up, play some music in lieu of commentary, and we would just, have a long-ass match.
Over time, Little Luchador lost interest and moved on, so we were left with 3 people. At that time, we decided to bring in my neighbor, Tim Krieger, and someone I had just met named Ricky Armstrong.
The addition of Rico and Homeboy, it started, that was really started us getting to where we were today. Because up until then, it was just me, Ryan, Kubi, and Ricky, the other little Ricky, who was Little Luch.
Gotta believe that somehow, some way, me, Ryan, Kubi, and Slug were all on the same school bus together. And they were going to wrestle one day, and they asked me to come along one day.
When Homeboy showed up, like, outside of wrestling, me and him we were good friends. Like, we talked all the time. So when he showed up, it was cool it gave me someone to bond with. Aside from Ricky, who was just all over the place, and Ryan and Kubi were Ryan and Kubi. We all know how those two are with each other, so.
Ricky's entrance into the B4W, I would say that changed everything, because finally Ryan found somebody who loved wrestling as much as he did at the time. And they were able to collaborate and have their own federations, and they actually did have a federation. Ricky had his own federation, a BWL, and Ryan was like, yeah, he's somebody else who wants to do this, and he's in my neighborhood. And so they got together and they just made this grand thing of, we got to wrestle with each other. This is like, oh my God. And I think it was friendship forever right from there.
At the time I was doing BWL, which was barely a wrestling league. It was budget, but we barely wrestled. No, we were doing BWL shows, and we were doing like once every, like I would say about once a month, and then I had like pay-per-view style. And Green Mumbles said, "Oh, my cousin wrestles," and I was like, oh, "Okay, we'll bring him down. We need another person, you know." So that's how I met Ryan.
Ryan, there's this person who chose to be named unknown. Mike Reed. You just encountered Rico DFS.
Thoughts on Rico when he first came in were I liked it because it was different. Like everyone was, I thought, you know, for the most part that it was trying to be serious about everything, and then Rico came in and he was just crazy, bouncing off the walls with woo woo and all that. So it got a lot more fun for me when he showed up.
Rico DMF. Well, looks like I'm here to carry another match, you know? But keep depending on me. You know what I'm talking about? Well, anyway, maybe we'll cut my music eventually.
All right, let's go back. Back in the day, me and Kubi never really saw eye to eye. We didn't get along all the time. And at the time, it was one of the times when me and him weren't on the same page, and he didn't want me there. I didn't want to be there. So it was Tommy Thunder against Ralphus for the world title. And during the match, Ricky was doing commentary. I forget who else was there doing commentary. I believe it was Krieger. And mid-match, Ricky got up from the camera, got in his car, drove around the block, picked me up, had my shirt that I always wore, gave it to me, and went back in, sits back down, and all of a sudden hits my music. I come flying out from the gate, and you just see Ralphus turn and go, "Slug!" I run in, clothesline him, slap on the slug tamer, he taps, gives me the world title, and then Kubi kind of flipped and lost it, stormed out, cursed me off, told me to get out, and I just sat there laughing. Everybody was laughing, and that was a great time.
So when he came back, it was kind of a shock to me. I got real pissed off because I felt I deserved it. I felt betrayed, I guess, by Ryan, more so by Ricky. I know Ricky didn't have, you know, a whole lot to do with it behind the scenes, but he was the one who drove to Slug's house and picked him up, which I did not like him for.
Things were starting to go really good for us, so we started thinking about conquering one of our original 3 goals, trying to get on TV. But we knew we needed more people, so we all reached out to a bunch of people that we knew.
Ryan liked wrestling because he was like a hardcore wrestling fan. He loved everything about it, just like I did. I liked it since I was 4 years old. He liked it since he was younger. So we had a bond with that, and he told me about this wrestling group he had called B4W. I had my own thing with my own friends, but it was nothing like his.
I do remember a chicken wire 2x4 because it was supposed to be barbed wire, and then the gimmick never worked because he would always hold it like he was like beating a baseball bat against his hand or something like that, and it just never worked. It was like, that was barbed wire. You really couldn't be doing that now, could you?
When TLD first got there, I wasn't really sure what to do with him.
Go for the sharpshooter. Homeboy trying to reverse it. Homeboy, oh, reversing it.
He was another one I thought he was just, you know, passing through.
Super Sweet, yes, we brought in Super Sweet because he had done a lot of stuff in the earlier years with Ryan, so bringing him in, I mean, we just really reached out to anyone that had ever done wrestling with us before.
I don't know what it is with this BWL crap. All I know, I got 2 jokes here in the ring. Who do you think you are anyway?
And it was just a god-awful match. It was mostly my fault.
You'll be lying in the hospital as soon as I'm done with you.
Had no idea what I was doing. Didn't plan anything out.
We kept adding to the roster. There were guys who came and went like Enigma, Tim the Enforcer, and Joe D of Misery. Around this time, we also started rotating between Rico's house and Tommy Thunder's backyard. We also came to the conclusion that it was time to move away from the HWF name.
It was Brian Ciamara's character, Enigma. He was trying to take over, and me and Kubi clearly, Slarmy had no problem with taking him out because we ran it.
He's burning our title! Whoa! He's mocking the slide. Looks like he's urinating on it.
We weren't gonna let him come in and take over, and then we sent him on his merry way with probably the worst beatdown he ever got. And I remember just standing over him and just screaming in his face, "This is what happens when you come to Brookwood 4. This is Brookwood 4 Wrestling." Boom. B4W was born.
Happens when you mess with Brookwood 4. That's something we like to call Brookwood 4 Wrestling. Wow!
My friend from childhood, I met back up with him in college. We had a class together, and he had a show on public access called Francis the Idiot. And I kind of said to him in one of our classes, I was like, "Hey dude, how do you get your thing on public access?" He goes, "Oh, it's free, you just have to go down there and wait online." And I told Ryan about it, and he was like, "Really, that's all you have to do? You don't have to pay money?" I was like, "Yeah, you just have to wait there." He goes, "Well, why aren't we doing it?"
And he had an opportunity to go to public access because of Ricky and being able to show these shows on the air, which was great because back then there is no YouTube, there's no nothing. There's no other way to show these shows other than public access.
Ryan realized that we needed more wrestlers instead of costume changes every 5 minutes. You needed an actual roster to do the show.
In addition to TLD and Super Sweet, we added members of Ricky's old wrestling company, the Budget Wrestling League. It would become known as the BWL Invasion, and it would change B4W forever.
And I needed to have knee surgery, and which meant I wasn't going to be wrestling for a couple of months, and we knew that. And so what was interesting was we were thinking of this whole new storyline or whatever with the BWL coming in, and well, let's see how we can spin this. And so the BWL came into a match one time, and they just started to beat me, and he's not going to be able to wrestle, so let's angle it out so that the BWL takes him out. And then a couple months later, it just worked out so well that I came back, and the BWL, most of those members were still wrestling with us.
And after I was hanging out in Brookwood 4 for a while, Ricky was like, we're wrestling, we're putting the two wrestling things together, BWL and HWF or B4W together, and you guys want to wrestle, meaning me, Cording, Nick, Green, Schwartz, all of us guys. And, we were like, sure, why not? That's cool. And I always loved wrestling, so.
My first thought on when I heard we were going to be on public access was I was definitely a little shocked and excited that we were going to have a bunch of people out there seeing what we got and witnessing all the shenanigans that was going on in the backyards.
Yeah, that was a good big boot. That was my entrance, really. Big boot, and I walked away.
Oh! 12 gauge on Holly Thunder!
It just made logical sense because, Ryan had met Nick back in the day when Ryan was doing the BWL shows with us. And of course he knew Mike because it was his cousin.
The pilot for the TV show was filmed at Tommy Thunder's house, and it would be the last show we ever taped there. A fitting farewell to the yard that held so many memories for all of us.
We ended up leaving, Tommy Thunder's house and going to my house, so.
Comparing the two backyards that we wrestled in, well, Rico's had a ring and was flat. Kubi's house, it was flat for a little bit, and then it had that hill in the back of it, so it made it a little bit harder to execute moves, and the matches kind of got a little wild because there was no ring to speak of. So Kubi's house was more of like a whirlwind of action, an uncontained action, loosely contained because it did have the fence, and Rico's was a little more organized because we had the ring, and eventually, we had the entranceway.
After we were on public access a couple of times, I was at the Freehold Movies with a friend of mine, and we were waiting for my dad to come pick us up. I was like 16 at the time, waiting for my dad to come pick me up, and back in those times, I always wore a Slipknot hoodie with a giant S on the back because it kind of fit Slug with the S, and I had my hoodie on, and I hear someone whispering behind me, and I just hear Slug. So it's not very often you hear people use the word slug. So obviously I heard it. I turn around and some kid was like, "Are you the slug?" "Yeah." "Dude, I saw you on TV wrestling on public access. You're awesome." I was I'm not going to say a B-list celebrity. It's more like an L-list celebrity, very low down there on the scale. But it was just awesome that like someone recognized me based on my hoodie alone. It was sick.
I think it put us out there. It was a good move. I think Raja was smart about that. You know, I remember going there and doing some skits or watching the skits at the actual public access at Cablevision over there. No, it was a smart move on his part. Business move, I would say, on his part.
The first ring was a mess. It was a total mess and things kept breaking.
I mean, the evolution of the rings started off with the red and blue. You remember the wooden post with that ladder in the corner, which was cool. You know, I never saw anything like that before.
And we had this battle royal, and it was down to me and John. He got big booted by me. He got caught up in the rope, and the whole ring came tumbling down while Ricky was gone on vacation.
We took a bus from like the Greyhound from Florida all the way up to New Jersey. So I was in a bit of a mood, and then I get picked up at the airport. And I get into my mom's station wagon, and I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to wrestle on Monday. It's gonna be so awesome." And then like how the shows go, that's what I really wanted to know about. And John goes, didn't even let me like sit down. He was just like, "Yeah, Ricky, you know the ring?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, they broke it." And I was like, "I was gone 1 week."
Look at me, I just destroyed the ring, and it was just a funny moment, and I just saw everyone laughing, so I thought it was hilarious.
And then I remember the night in the freezing winter, in the middle of the night, building the newer one with the metal poles.
As soon as you guys put in the metal poles, cemented them in the ground, we were all working on that, that's when it felt really real. You know what I mean? Like,
After the BWL invasion, one man emerged above everyone else. TJ Money would soon become the new top wrestler in B4W during our hottest period to date.
Tim becoming the world champion, I thought, was a good move, and the reason why I liked it was because after knowing these guys and finding out they are, you know, Denver Streets had the title, Tommy Thunders had the title, and Ricky's had the title. They needed somebody new to have the title and not be one of them, and that's where TJ Money came in.
And really, it seemed natural. I don't think we had a whole lot planned for the match. I don't think we did a whole lot of talking during the match that I can remember. Now the end of it, I guess I was flattered a little bit that we were going to plan that it was going to take so much to take me out.
Ryan said to me, "Hey, you know, we were talking about it, and we were going to start working me into it." And he said, "This is going to be the perfect time." And so me and Tim, you know, we start talking about things, this, that, and the other thing. Hey, what could you do? What could you do? And so we thought chair shot.
Slug came out first. I got the powder near my face, not in my eyes. To the camera, it looked like it went right in my eyes, but it was about 3 or so feet in front of my face. And then I got hit with the gore, and 1-2 kick out. Out came the Beast, who was a new acquisition at the time, who had beaten me for my hardcore title, also at the time. And he hit me with a choke slam, 1-2 kick out. The returning homeboy Joe Slice comes out with a chair.
He said, "Just hit me on the top of the head. You know, don't, you know, don't wimp out on it. Just hit me on the top of the head, and I'll take it."
Tim got blasted by Krieger with those 3 chair shots, and after the match I was like, wow.
Was exactly how it should have went, and I would never change it, not for the world.
Oh my God, no, it's TJ Money. Oh boy, 1, 2, oh my God, 3, it's just, oh my God, 3, this is chair shot, live returning, homeboy, 2.
With the addition of the public access show, we started getting new people who wanted to join B4W, such as Bobby Bowe and the Beast.
Me and Kubi, actually, we were in the same
gym class together. I think that was my junior year, his senior year. And when he had come in, I had asked Ryan. I saw him on a late bus from school or something, and he had approached me about doing it. And, you know, he introduced himself as the guy who lived behind me or whatever. So I was like, okay. I'm like, well, you're a big guy, blah, blah, blah. We kind of got to talking. I told him to come by. Ryan gave him a shot. And on and off, he was with us for quite some time. Yes, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect, you know. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I liked to do it. So I kind of just went with it, you know.
Bobby Bo. He was really excited to be there and to do it and everything like that. I just felt that his matches were awkward.
All I knew was it was just a bunch of guys that lived in Brookwood 4 that were doing backyard wrestling. And my friend Tim came up one day and said, was talking about it in front of me, and I said, hey, I want to try that.
After about 20 episodes on public access, we started making a name for ourselves. Someone named Evan, who ran a horror show on the same channel, was interested in joining B4W. No single person ever changed B4W for the better, like the person we would come to know as Christian Greed.
It was in the days of cable access. I had a horror show called The Haunted Theater, and I was on cable access.
Standing behind me, we have some of the wrestlers from B4W.
When we were editing at the public access, I was there one time by myself editing, and I heard that there was this guy watching our show, and you know, he was a big fan of it, and we were just talking and everything like that, and I mentioned the idea to Ryan of maybe bringing him in and doing something, and then he ended up actually showing up at my house. And we were just talking, and I was like, "Yeah, man, it'd be awesome," you know, because he approached me, which was crazy, like a fan. He was just a fan of what we were doing, and
there was something there that interests me because a lot of backyard wrestling was just about hitting each other over the head with chairs and using neon tubes, and it was about bleeding, and and I just saw something different here.
Greed came into our federation was a huge asset to B4W. He became like our father figure.
He gave us a whole a sense of professionalism, I'm gonna say, because he used to do it for years before he came with us, and then when he came, he was all business. He was fun to be around, but on camera, it was all business.
Don't worry, Rico's not leaving that ring with that belt.
Did everything to a T, played his character, so it made us step our game up when he was there.
Obviously, the whole show got better. Our matches made more sense with an actual referee. And behind the scenes, I think everything started to get a little bit more organized. You know, people started developing like characters, like real characters. As a whole, the show got better with his input, I think.
He added a different set of storylines to things. He helped collaborate with Ryan and make things a little bit better. As far as storylines go, as far as, you know, just trying to get different angles and get a different, better creative opinion, you know, because not all of us wanted to help be creative about it, and he was definitely one of those that wanted to be.
He had this look on his face like he didn't know what to make of me. I don't know if he thought I was just some kind of older pervert or something, or I don't know what he thought. He just had that look on his face, so I kind of made it my mission to win that guy over. And I think after observing, I observed a couple matches or cards before I became involved, and after looking it over, I mean, I liked the whole idea behind Rico DMF. I liked the way he looked, the whole outfit and everything, and I just thought he was somebody that I could probably work well, and was probably the first match to get into, or probably the better first match for me to get into this backyard federation, which I hate calling it that, because that's not what I saw. I saw a bunch of people who were really interested in becoming professional wrestlers, and you know, I thought I could help at that point.
With the winter approaching, we decided to film the shows as two separate entities to try to explain why half of the show was filmed in daylight and the other half was filmed at night. The B4W and the XWA was born.
when we had to split the shows up, it was because I got a full-time job. As far as that's what I remember. I don't remember if the XWA was created for me, but I will take credit for it. A lot of people couldn't make it to the regular Monday shows, so we would have to do night shows, which sucked.
Oh my god, the night shows, they were the worst. Filming the night shows was terrible because the lighting was awful. I remember it was like a thing. It was like everybody used to argue about, like I always did the camera and I did music too sometimes, but it was always like who's doing this, who's doing that, and the worst was holding the lights. That was awful.
I didn't like the night shows because you barely see what was going on. Like, not even from just watching on the camera aspect, just from like being in the ring, it was hard to see. Like, we didn't have the best lights in the world, so it was very dark.
The XWA was originally created as like an invasion on the B4W.
With people not being able to show up at the same time. And so we, instead of just, not having them involved at all, we just said, oh, well, we'll start the XWA and, we can angle something like that.
Let's just say I like the whole XWA storyline. I always like the invasion things. I like people switching factions, going back and forth, doing other things, and I liked it. And it was, everybody does it, so why not? What the hell? Why not us?
I think it was too many belts. The XWA didn't work. Because we were just giving everybody belts. So we had the European, US, the World, XWA World, my BWL World, and just way too many.
Sitting in my room one day, ready to watch B4W, expecting to see my big debut as the XWA champion.
The XWA, christened in blood.
And all of a sudden it was a repeat of the last show. And then the week after was a repeat of another show. It started repeating the shows, and I never actually went to Ryan and questioned him why he wasn't airing them. He just didn't air them.
Of the dozen or so XWA episodes, fewer than half ever aired. The XWA ended shortly after. The legacy of the XWA has always been debated.
It made things more interesting. It created feuds. It created more of a dramatic thing for most people.
Of all the events that took place during that time, nothing threatened to shatter the very foundation of B4W like the day that Ricky and I got into a real-life fight.
Two most important, components to the B4W: the guy who writes all the shows, and the guys whose house we wrestle at.
So I was doing commentary and I was telling, okay, you guys are doing this and you were doing this. And then something happened in the match, and the match is over, and then I went to hit the music, and then Ryan just not lost it, but he was like, what are you doing? You weren't supposed to do that. That's not what I had planned. And I was just like, that's what you told me to do. And so I broke the clipboard because I was just frustrated.
Ryan can be a little hard to deal with sometimes. He can be very demanding of other people. And that day, Ricky just could not deal with the pressure. And for some reason, I remember Ricky throwing a clipboard, and that's what set Ryan off. Ricky played the wrong music, or he cued the wrong music, or he was slow to play music. And Ryan had commented on it, and then Ricky just lost it. He threw the clipboard down and then whispered something loudly to Ryan.
I don't remember why Ricky was upset, but I remember he was upset at Ryan. And he had this thing he used to do, like whenever Ryan went inside a change or everything, he would, mumble and get angry and talk shit. But not really coherently, like I didn't know what he was saying. And I remember him throwing clipboard and Ryan just telling me to grab everything and leaving. And I remember being really confused and Ryan not explaining to me exactly what happened.
And Ryan looked at him, said, and then walked out. And I was sitting there. All these people that were in the backyard I met through Ryan, so I was incredibly awkward. There was a pretty big tension there. So I remember Tim breaking the clipboard, like it was the hoorah, the big thing to do.
After Ryan ended up leaving, I ended up having like a nervous breakdown, and Tim and Kubi tried to pull everything back together. Even, you know, TLD had some choice words about Ryan.
TLD had something to say about Ryan. And once that happened, I saw red and I blacked out and I stood up and I screamed at TLD like he had just murdered my dog. The only reason TLD was there was because of Ryan. Regardless of what other people said to his face, that was the whole reason he was there.
But even, you know, after that, when we went home and everything, it was kind of like, all right, when the hell are we going to wrestle next? Because, you know, Ricky and Ryan don't seem to be into wrestling right now. So eventually, everything was worked out, whatever the difference was. Probably wasn't much of a difference, but whichever that difference was eventually worked out. And we eventually went on to become the #1 backyard wrestling federation in the entire world.
I thought everything was done after that. I thought we were going to be done, you know. It just seemed that way to me, but thank God it didn't.
Luckily, everything was resolved, and we could continue to add more people to B4W.
So when I came back, the first angle I remember is the High Rollers. I was supposed to be their bodyguard for whatever reason.
Every day. And here they come, the High Rollers!
Didn't know why, I was just happy to have a spot on the show. So I just remembered, at first I would just pretty much walk out with them. And then I know the angle evolved quite a bit from there, and my character evolved, but that was definitely the first angle I remember and the first angle that I really did anything in.
I've always liked Joe Day, Joe D of Misery. I've always liked Joe Day. No matter wrestling, not wrestling, anything like that. I don't really remember too much of most people's angles, but I do remember that him being a big guy, he definitely, I mean, that's who we needed to get the pushes. We needed big, strong, you know, body slamming, throw him over, you know, power bomb sort of people, and he definitely was fitting the role.
Around maybe 2002 or 2003, and this first time when he called me up to get me in it. So, and I was very excited. I was very excited for that because
he was not the Hellspawn that I had first met in BWL. I'll tell you that much. He was a toned down version almost, because the Hellspawn I met in BWL would not listen to anybody and just kept getting up.
Get him!
The referee.
One, two, three.
You know, when Jay first came in, you know, he had this monster type character, and you know, it was cool. It was like our version of, I guess, the Undertaker, if you will.
Well, I've known Hellspawn. I've known Jay for a long time now. Just as long as I've known Ryan. I've known him. I mean, he was just across the street neighbor. So it was somebody who I knew wanted to be there, who I knew wanted to wrestle.
First day was probably bonus. First day I landed on my head because I didn't know how to take a DDT. And when he gave it to me, I landed, and actually twice in that match. He gave me 2 DDTs in that match, and I ended up landing on my head twice because I had no idea how to take it yet.
My character really wasn't doing anything. I had just gone back to becoming Rico DMF after being in Criminal Cage for a little while in the XWA. That's around the same time that Hellspawn had come in. You know, I knew Hellspawn wasn't doing anything, and we had wrestled a time or two, and I wasn't doing anything with my character, so I thought it'd be really awesome that he had this whole deep-seated hatred for Rico DMF, and no one knew why, and then he would just keep attacking him and doing different stuff like that.
Was, like I said, one of our best matches we ever had. And when I heard that we wanted to do the ending of putting the, of him knocking over the entranceway on top of me, I was just thinking, oh my God, today I might die.
That was at the time when we had Garbage pick the finest entranceway in B4W history with carpet and bamboo and such. And I just remember, you know, we were wrestling, and then it was a last man standing match, and I knocked the entranceway over on Jay, and that was, again, something you hadn't seen before in B4W. So to be a part of that and to get the honor to do that, that was really cool.
And it looks as though, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? Oh my God! Oh my God! the entranceway. Dear Lord. Oh my.
After every single show, we would meet up at the local Burger King and talk about everything that happened that day, and what to improve and what to make better about the show. During this time, we really started to hit our stride. We were starting to get more people wanting to join than we could even handle. Just in Time, Agent Bibbs, LA Vin, Viper and X. We ended up having to expand our show from an hour to an hour and a half every week.
I was at home in high school. I went to Jackson Memorial. I was flipping through the channels and I come across Jackson Public Access and I see a wrestling thing on, and it's obviously a local thing, and I see my friend Jason, and apparently he's hell spawn. I see him on TV wrestling, so I talked to him at school the next day, and he's like, yeah, I do some wrestling with Brookwood 4 and everything, you should come check it out. So next thing you know, next week I'm at a meeting at Maria's house with Ryan, Jason, Ozzy, and everyone else, and that's where everything got started for me.
Oh, Agent Bibbs, the man who got blacklisted on his first show by speaking up to Tommy Thunder. I've never seen a man get so much hatred in so short a time, and so much love at the same time. Bibbles definitely had his agility deficiencies, but I think he made up for them with his big personality.
As soon as when I walked in, Ryan said, okay, you're from Hollywood, your TLD's heavy, and then, I was like, cool, I'm a heel, I love it, and I thought it was awesome. I thought I had so much fun.
I was completely surprised that Vin came into B4W because Vin had a history, he's a big guy in the Jackson Memorial world, at least in my eyes. He was a popular kid.
When LA Vin came in, it was awkward for me because I had a good idea that the kid was like a popular kid in school, and not that we didn't have popular people in our little clique of friends. But here comes this actual guy that lifts weights and is actually athletic and stuff like that. But when he went and wrestled, you could tell that you need to know what you're doing when you're in there, because he looked just like how all we looked when we first started. So
I was actually flipping through the channels one night and caught it on public access, and caught my eye. I always did backyard wrestling. Thought it was pretty cool, so I started watching it, and I found myself every week watching it. Then I saw during the episode it says if you want to join, there was a contact info, so I went ahead and I wrote to him. I said I walked in there, everyone already knew each other, and we just walked in there not knowing no one. And everyone was very friendly with us and open. Every time, after every show, always inviting us out. It's a great feeling.
There's only so many times you could say how much you're going to beat someone up before it gets boring to everyone.
We had a nice mix. We did some vignettes, and they were all pertinent to what was going on, and you need them to push the storyline along. If not, you're just watching, two guys wrestling.
The Bird is a friend, an advisor, an observer. I mean, this has got no soul. I mean, no. See, this won't do. This won't touch. This is like for old people. This is not the Bird. I mean, I can't take that. Come on.
Well, I could have sworn the Bird was a stick.
What?
Oh.
Don't you dare ever say that about the Bird.
I'm sorry.
You understand? Don't ever say. You don't get it. That Bird is my soulmate. It's my friend. It tells me what to do. I mean, you know what? You guys just don't understand. I mean, I thought you knew about my relationship with the Bird. You just don't understand. I mean, you just don't get it, do you?
What I tried to do is bring something new to wrestling through vignettes. As far as I know, all the ideas that I had never been done. It set the match up in a different way. Like I said, it wasn't about two muscled up guys talking about how they're going to beat each other up.
It's just weird how just an inanimate object became a big focus, but it's just like anything else. I mean, you have gimmicks, and it was my gimmick, and it turned out to become the Federation's gimmick. The Bird used to talk to me, Not for real. Just it used to talk.
What the heck is the matter with you guys? You don't understand nothing. Does anybody in this place understand me?
Our vignettes were so unique, but they still worked.
The idea for MTV Cribs, I don't know, has always been somewhat creative with little sketches, and I thought it'd be cool, but like, hey, I love having pool parties. Why not have the B4W camera crew come to my pool party and see how Mr. Benjamin rolls? And the rest is history.
All right, now I'm going to show you my luxurious mansion bathroom. Here we are right here with the gold-plated toilet, and what's the...
Hey,
no.
I was waiting for you.
Some of the vignettes we did with John were pretty good between him and Denver. You know, Denver trying to get to the belt, and I thought he was a lot more accessible that way.
I thought Mr. Benjamin's title run was awesome. I mean, he was, every match that he was having when he won the world title, even leading up to the world title, you know, you could argue that they were probably the match of the show.
Benjamin's was great. That was another one of my boys that felt good. And who knew he was going to win? I didn't know Raja would push him that far, but he did. So, good for him.
Like everybody else, he got better. He started to understand what wrestling was about, started watching wrestling. And by that time, when he won the world title, he was a pretty good wrestler. And he was one of the best that we had.
When I won the world title, I was the best at the time. No one could beat me, and that was just a great feeling to know that I was the best.
When he finally won the belt, it was just like a great moment, and I couldn't believe he finally got it, because he'd been working hard for a long time, and he finally got the recognition that I felt, and I'm pretty sure others felt he finally deserved, and it was just a great moment for him to win the belt.
Benjamin's becoming the world champion was pretty cool. I thought it was a great way to push another guy. He held it up high. It was just a big moment, a really good story where this guy gets one chance, one opportunity. He gets it, he wins it. He becomes the world champion. All the faces lift him up in the air and give him a, hey, good job, guy, beating the Old School Alliance, who was like the strongest stable we had.
When I won the world title, it was unreal. It was such a great feeling. It's just a total rush going through your body.
Oh, shit! Yeah. He's got it! Can he do it? 1, 2, 3!
And for him to get the belt, he deserved it just as much as anybody else. Whoever held the belt deserved it.
Back then, life was good. Each show was better than the last, so we started thinking about our next goal, a live show in front of a live crowd.
My thoughts when we decided to do a live show was I was very nervous to have first I have to ask my parents if we could have a live show in my backyard. And then secondly, of how it was actually going to come out off when we had an actual crowd there, not just people that were coming from school to hang out.
At the time, I was excited. I was definitely very excited at times to finally get to wrestle in front of people.
Yeah, the live show was definitely the next step, and it was a good next step.
Walking in, it was all set up, and then we had this announcer referee guy, so it kind of felt like I guess a real show, which it was.
I was nervous as shit. Back then I was so shy, and I got nervous when I wrestled in front of 3 or 4 people sitting on the hill watching me.
We had a good, decent-sized crowd for a live show.
I remember Ryan coming up to me like, "You nervous?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And right before I was about to leave, I'm just like, "Oh man."
I was really excited to do it, but I just had nobody come watch. And actually, I was fighting with my girlfriend. I kind of forgot about it. And TLD had to call my cell phone 6 times to remind me. I almost didn't make it.
It's a good idea to get our feet wet, get us in the door on actually having an audience to actually come and see it. It was a good idea. I mean, it was in Ricky's backyard, so.
Well, I was nervous because that was the first time we ever wrestled in front of people, other than ourselves, and but it just seemed to go by just so smoothly, you know what I mean? So it really didn't, not too much sweat off my back, you know what I mean?
But it was fun, it's one thing to perform in front of a camera, but it's a completely other thing to do it in front of a crowd.
Leading up to it, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a piece of cake, no problem." We wrestle in front of people all the time because people that we don't know are there. And then I actually saw the crowd, and I got the butterflies, and I got nervous, and It was awesome. It was an awesome feeling, and it's probably the greatest feeling in the world to wrestle in front of an actual crowd. So,
a great card, a lot of good matches, and it was good to see everybody again because it was out for a period of time, and it seemed like everyone stepped their game up for it.
It was for what it was a fairly good crowd, a sizable crowd, and people cheered and booed, and I think it did a lot for everybody that night.
That was an exciting day. There was just so much going on, and all the matches going on, and all the people there, the heightened atmosphere. It was just really exciting. I was going in there as the main event, so you can't ask for more than that.
I didn't even think about, I didn't even notice that they were there. I just concentrated on what I was supposed to do. So looking back though, it was pretty awesome, wrestling for the first time in front of an actual crowd of people. It felt awesome.
It was mainly only for us anyway, because that's all we were ever really concerned about was, wrestling, watching it, and enjoying it for ourselves.
First live show that everybody made it, and every time I see it, I get little butterflies in my stomach.
The amount of effort that went into it was unbelievable. I think it was just a great representation of what we were, because we were all just a bunch of friends that were trying to be wrestlers and have fun, and we wanted to show a crowd of people that we could do that, and I think it was extremely successful, and I think I'm really proud of it. I'm proud that I was part of that, and I think everyone else that was part of it should be proud too.
We had done it. Life was perfect. And then it all came crashing down. Right after the live show, we found out we would be losing 5 of our main roster guys, including Mr. Benjamins and Tommy Thunder. The live show would end up being their farewell to B4W. On top of all that, we found out we had to leave Ricky's backyard, the place we called home for so many years.
Well, yes, leading into the live show, my parents had informed me that they thought this wrestling thing was a phase and that we would be done by now, and that we weren't able to do the wrestling anymore in my backyard.
It was kind of like, wow, is this live show going to be the last thing we ever do? Is this going to be the last time I get to wrestle? I mean, honestly, I didn't think wrestling in a backyard was going to get me anywhere, but at the same time, it was just a ton of fun, and it was something I loved to do.
Ooh, end of an era. End of childhood. I was at teenage years. Yeah, I'd say that.
The feeling was, this sucks, because we've been wrestling for so damn long.
I remember when I heard that we weren't going to be wrestling in that backyard anymore, I was like, oh man, this sucks, because I think at the time we didn't really have a spot to wrestle for a while.
We were worried about where it was going to go from there. Yeah, it was sad. It was sad. Because a big part of that federation was there, and the whole time I was there.
How did I feel about it? I mean, I was pissed because I wanted to keep wrestling. I had so much fun doing it. Those were those are the best years of my life. You know what I mean? We were just hanging out every Monday, wrestling every week. It was just wrestling 24/7. You couldn't ask for more. And then kind of in the final hour, Tim Lee stepped in and said we could wrestle at his house.
Every time I talked to my dad about, when we found out that we might have to leave Ricky's backyard, I knew, my dad's yard was big, and so I asked him about it, and he had been, gung-ho about it.
When we found out we were going to Tim's backyard, at first I was pretty excited because I knew we were going to be able to keep wrestling. But at the same time, I was nervous because I didn't know, if it was going to be as successful as being at Ricky's, because we'd been there for so long. So I do remember helping move the ring and everything over to Tim's. And I think it was when we started putting the ring together at Tim's that I realized it wasn't going to work out, because we were putting the ropes up and it was just a piece of shit, the ring. We would like touch the ropes and they would just break, and it was everything. It's just like from the second we got there, it just seemed like it was destined to fail. So
my feeling on leaving Ricky's house was definitely disappointment. That's why, it was definitely disappointment. I loved wrestling in Ricky's backyard. I'd become comfortable wrestling in Ricky's backyard. And it was just one of those sort of like everyday things that you knew was going to happen. All right, well, you know, day comes along, going to wrestling. No, I'm going to wrestling at Ricky's house, and now we have to change. Now we have to find a new spot to wrestle. It was just different.
It's like B4W was kind of like a standstill when we had to leave the backyard, the original backyard for B4W. You know, we had to go through the process of finding somewhere to go. And I don't recall how long the process took, but you know, at least we had a new home for the B4W after that.
Once we went from my house to Tim's house after the live show, I was hoping it was going to be, but we did lose a lot of the talent, and you kind of noticed how much some of the talent you needed more than, you know, you realize you don't know what you have until it's gone almost.
Going into the live show, I was supposed to leave for the Navy, and John was supposed to leave for Florida.
Tommy Thunder was a big integral part of the Federation, as was Mr. Benjamin's at the time.
So a lot of people were leaving. It was a big change. And I don't know how well that change was going to come once we moved to Tim's backyard.
When I left the B4W, I went away to college in Pennsylvania. So I wasn't home. I was in a double major in a culinary school, and I didn't really have time to come home and wrestle.
It was bittersweet. You know, I knew I was moving on to this beautiful tropical oasis that I live in now, and but you know, I was sad because I was leaving all my friends and wrestling colleagues behind.
Man, this sucks. I was like, you know, I know a lot of people cried. I got very emotional, but it was a very emotional moment, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is really like the best time of my life, and this is, I hope it stays as good, but you know what I mean? Like,
I guess it was kind of sad because that's where I started at, you know, so it was heartbreaking a little bit, but.
How did I feel about taking down the ring? It sucked. It was very, you know, I hated that that wrestling was leaving my backyard.
Now, we did like 2 tapings afterwards, and then we had to break down the ring. And that was like one of the saddest days, to break that ring down and tore it up and see it completely empty with nothing in it. It's so weird. Well, I remember seeing those images like the day before we moved and went to Tim's, seeing that backyard completely empty. It was just very strange.
Oh man, that place was awesome because it just had so much character. You know, those ancient grounds where those 4 posts stood for so long and then went down and then were re-erected.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a different atmosphere. It kind of took most of us out of the element. We were all used to wrestling in Ricky's backyard, and then we went someplace new.
And it didn't feel the same. It just had a different feeling to it. I'm not saying it was bad or good. It was different, and I don't think I liked it.
I still had a lot of animosity towards Tim at this point. I felt like he was becoming way too involved in the shows.
It was a Sunday. The Giants happened to be on that day. It was decided that, you know, we were waiting at the soccer field for Tim so we can meet there, and because we couldn't have as many cars at his house, which was no big deal, but we met at the soccer field to go wrestle. Then we get a phone call that, you know, he can't wrestle because the Giants game's on.
And decided he didn't want to have wrestling that day because he thought football was more important.
The way I remember it, me, Ozzy, and Jay were watching football. So we were running a little late from that. And I guess by the time we called them, everybody was basically tired of waiting around, which, you know, our bad, you know.
It just turned out that we didn't wrestle that day. and that just turned out being the end. From what I remember, it's like we went from wrestling there probably 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row to, you know, all of a sudden showing up and getting ready to go, and then just never went back there, and it's pretty disappointing.
You know, you said we're going to wrestle. You knew the game was going to be on. If we would have known in advance that we can't do the show on that day, we could have changed it to another day.
The only reason why I can imagine why I didn't want to continue with the B4W after Tim's Backyard is because there was just such a dramatic change from Ricky's to Tim's Backyard to now. I don't need there to be another big old change. It just already didn't feel the same as it used to be, and it lost that backyard feel. I don't know. There just wasn't something that I enjoyed about it anymore. It just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same group of guys going out there having fun.
And just all of that, all those little things that could have been fixed easily and talked out, because me and Ryan didn't talk, you know, in our personal lives. We only talked at wrestling. Just never got worked out, and it all came to a head at that one day.
Well, I hoped it would have, but I know it definitely wasn't going to last much longer.
So we had a stable environment, and everybody knew what it was. But when we went, I just feel like when we went to Tim's Backyard, I think we kind of lost something, to tell you the truth.
When I first heard B4W was ending, I absolutely thought that was it, because we did it for so long, and then it never got to the point where anybody said we were going to stop. So when that came up, it was just like, whoa. Not that I show up every week, but that sucks, because a lot of memories with the B4W, and just the fact that it was going to be over was just awful.
Things just didn't work out over there. But it never really felt the same after we left Ricky's Backyard, because that was the home of B4W. And, you know, it's not exactly where it all started, but it became our home.
I don't know all the backstory of what was going on with Tim, but I just know you had two very strong personalities who weren't willing to back down, and everyone lost in the end.
So, and my dad was getting on me. He's like, well, if you're not going to be wrestling in our backyard, then I don't want a wrestling ring in an entranceway in my backyard. So me and him dug up all the posts and carried them to the front. And bulk pickup picked it all up. All that stuff that you saw is gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you here to the B4W. But this is not the B4W that you're used to. No, this is not the old B4W. This is the new and improved